What's up, YouTube? It's October 17th, 2023, and it's time for our WWE NXT recap and analysis. But before we get into that, we're going to dedicate this episode to Dave over at Just Your Average Geeks. Dave sits at 218 subscribers. He has 152 videos. He mostly discusses comic books. He also has some sick Marvel and X-Men statues, and Dave has been a really big supporter of my channel. So if you have time, go check out Dave at Just Your Average Geeks. So it's season 17 of NXT, episode 42. And for about 4 minutes, we open up the episode with recap and highlights of last week's episode. And we open up this week with the Bada Bing, Bada Boom Battle Royal. This Battle Royal will determine the number one contenders to face Tony D'Angelo and Stax for the NXT Tag Team titles. The Creeds get announced, but pretty much everyone else is already in the ring. We've got Drew Gulak, we've got the Brawling Brutes, we've got Chase U, we've got Gallus, we've got Briggs and Jensen, and we've got the Lotharios who are sporting this really cool tattoo. It's like a scratch tattoo. And of course we have the family watching on from that tower up top, and they're enjoying some pasta and some typical Italian dishes. Briggs and Jensen immediately throw out Damian Kemp, so Drew Gulak is out as well. We have Hank and Tank eliminated. We're reminded of that triple threat match that will take place later on, which will determine the number one contender for Dragunov's title between Dijak, Corbin, and Carmelo Hayes. Gallus pulls down the rope and they eliminate Briggs and Jensen. Ridge Holland dumps out a couple guys, and the Creeds knock out Gallus. I, for one, feel this Battle Royal would have been a good time for the Authors of Pain, the AOP, to make their comeback in NXT, which has been rumored, but it did not occur here. Now, there's a point here where Scripps jumps over, and he leaps out, and he knocks out Ridge Holland, Butch, and the OTM. And we have 3 teams left. We have Chase U, we have the Lotharios, and we have the Creed brothers. The Creeds flip out Humberto Carrillo, but the Lotharios dump out the Creeds because the refs didn't see the Lotharios get eliminated. And out comes Thea Hale and JC Jane to cheer on Chase U. We then have a 10-minute match between the Lotharios and Chase U to determine the number one contenders. So while the Lotharios are attempting a finishing move, Brutus Creed gets up on the apron while Julius pulls one of the Lotharios out by his leg. Mr. Chase rolls him up for the 1, 2, 3. Chase U will face Tony D'Angelo and Stax for the tag team titles next week on night 1 of Halloween Havoc. This is despite Booker T's objections. He did not agree with this finish. Next, we have a Blair Davenport promo. She claims that Gigi Dolan won their match due to an incompetent referee, and that she is going to derail Dolan's career. And she challenges her to a match at Halloween Havoc. Next up, we'll have Carmelo Hayes. But first, we'll have another Brian Pillman Jr. vignette. And he will finally make his debut at Halloween Havoc under the name Lexus King. I, for one, hope WWE doesn't mess up this debut like they usually do by having him lose his first match. So Mello takes the ring and he does the Scott Hall, hey yo. He says it's good to be Mello. He's been in the ring with John Cena. He's been shoulder to shoulder with The Undertaker. And out comes Baron Corbin. Corbin says, you're just a little fanboy, and fans belong in the stands, not in the ring. He says, I see you, Mello, trying to get these autographs and pictures with all these Hall of Famers. And if you were trying to be more of a superstar, not a fanboy, you might still have that NXT championship. And out comes Dijak. And Dijak says, you two need to focus on what I'm going to do to you. And what I'm going to do is beat you two and take that NXT championship. And your showboating won't matter when you have to look into my eyes. And Corbin says, how can I look into your eyes? You always wear those sunglasses indoors. And Dijak says, listen, Corbin, I've been hearing you every week crying in the back because no one respects your experience. And Corbin says, listen, you're not afraid of me. You should be afraid of me, and you're stupid if you're not. And Mello says, listen, Dijak, you want to be me so much? I'll make you a jersey. And Dijak says, I drop Dragunov and I'll drop you both. And just then, Dragunov appears on the Jumbotron. And he says, instead of talking, all of you better concentrate on the fierce battle that awaits you. And he says that just before Cody Rhodes' reign ended as special guest general manager, he made it a 4-way match, and this match will include Trick, Williams. And just then Trick Williams comes out and they all start taking little shots at each other. And Trick says this changes nothing between me and Mello. And Corbin says that's absolutely nuts. Your boys shook. And Corbin said you went and did this behind Mello's back. And just then Mello gives a little glance at Trick Williams and he says I'm willing to put down anyone to get back on top. But then Dijak says what about him, Trick Williams? Are you willing to put him down? And then a brawl ensues, which results in Trick and Mello throwing Corbin and Dijak over the top rope. And then it looks like Mello's about to take his jacket off and throw down with Trick, but Trick kind of stumbles into him a little bit and Mello puts the jacket back on. We go to the back where Fallon Henley is explaining the tournament to the rest of some of the newcomers. She says this could be a launching pad for your career. Trish Stratus appears and says, I actually made it to the finals. Why don't you learn about it from me? She said, Fallon Henley, you just messed with horses and dirt. And up next, we have a women's breakout tournament match, Carmen Petrovic versus Jada Parker. We're reminded again that the Royal Rumble will be held January 27th, 2024 in St. Petersburg, Florida at Tropicana Field. Now remember, Carmen Petrovic is that third-degree black belt, so she's doing that ninja gimmick. And Jada Parker is known for her athleticism and her agility. This is a 3-minute and 30-second match. And Petrovic wins with that spin kick to the back and a submission hold. Now we have an updated bracket, but it interestingly shows Ariana Grace versus Reese. This is an obvious graphical mistake by the WWE. We have Tegan Knox backstage, and she's joined by Natty. Natalya Neidhart believes in Tegan Knox, and that's why she's there. And we have Knox versus Valkyria up next. At the 11-minute mark of this match, we have Chelsea Green and Piper Niven come down with their women's tag team titles. When Knox sees this, she goes outside to back up Natalya. She comes back in the ring and tries to roll up Valkyria. But Valkyria hits her with that spin kick to the face at the 11-minute, 30-second mark. 1, 2, 3. Valkyria wins this match. Chelsea Green does the Cora Jade point and laugh at Tegan Knox. And the two tag teams battle their way up the ramp. Just then, Valkyria grabs the mic and she starts to talk about how she wanted to be the first Irish-born champion. But now Becky Lynch appears on the Jumbotron, and she congratulates Valkyria on her match. And she says, listen, Valkyria, you're good, but I'm better. And next week, in night 1 of Halloween Havoc, they will square off for the Women's NXT Championship. We go backstage with a conversation between Mello and Trick Williams. Mello says, you blindsided me. I never agreed to that 4-way match. And Trick says, I would have came to you and discussed it, but I was nervous. Mello says, all right, but I'm going to do what I got to do. Trick said, so am I. We get a promo for the upcoming Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia, November 4th. Now we go to Gigi Dolan in the back. She says Halloween Havoc is my favorite event of the year. And she reveals the big wheel for Spin the Wheel, Make the Deal. This takes me all the way back to when Sting and Vader did this. She spins the wheel and it's determined that she will have a lights out match with Blair Davenport. We now get an update on Von Wagner, who was injured with those steel steps by Braun Breaker. He's rehabbing, and we get some really bad acting here where he's pulling those stretch bands. And his manager, Stone, tells him just focus on getting better. Because when you're 100%, you'll finish your business with Braun Breaker. Next, we'll have Kiana James versus Shotzi. Shotzi goes up top, and James pushes her to the outside. Roxanne Perez has Kiana James' handbag, and she takes that brick out from inside. Shotzi nails Kiana James with the bag, but then she lays down and plays possum. The ref takes the bag away from Kiana James, and she awkwardly runs into the post. I'm guessing she was supposed to miss Shotzi here, but Shotzi just wasn't there. This isn't the first time Shotzi has had timing issues in the ring. Shotzi goes up top, and she hits that senton bomb for the 1, 2, 3. This is an 8-minute and 30-second match, and Shotzi will go on to host Halloween Havoc with Scarlett. Next up, we have Metaphor backstage, and Akira Tozawa lets them know that he's looking for Noam Dar. We then have Jakara Jackson, but then we quickly go to Trick Williams, who was attacked backstage. This again was another awkward transition. And we're told that Trick Williams will be going to the hospital for further evaluation. So now that match is back to a triple threat match, no Trick Williams. And now we go to Dominic Mysterio backstage. But Nathan Frazier attacks him and they battle their way down the hallway. Booker says there's a lot of jealousy on Dom. They battle the ring and Frazier drops Dominic Mysterio. Frazier goes up top, but Rhea pulls Dom out of the ring. We go backstage where we have Shotzi and Roxanne Perez. Shotzi encourages Perez to spin that wheel and make the deal. Perez spins the wheel and she will have a Devil's Playground match versus Kiana James at Halloween Havoc. Next up we have Ariana Grace in the ring, and you can visibly see fans going to take a bathroom break. Again, not real good to have that caught on camera. Ariana Grace informs us that she will gracefully accept her bye into the next round of the tournament. Again, this is more bad acting. And so instead of her original opponent who's injured, now we will have Brynlee Reese. But this name was already on the bracket earlier, so this was just a major botch again by the audiovisual department. Turns out this was Reese's first match, and she actually had to borrow the gear of Sol Ruca. This was a 3-minute match, and Ariana Grace flips Reese and gets the pin. And Ariana Grace moves on to the final 4 of the tournament. The final 4 matches will take place next week, night 1 of Halloween Havoc. And up next we have the triple threat match between Dijak, Corbin, and Mello. But first we go backstage to Bron Breakker. And Breakker says, of course, last week's episode was the most talked about episode of NXT because of me. Von Wagner's manager Stone comes out and he says Von Wagner is improving. Stone says, I wish I could take you on. And Bron says, go ahead. And so next week, Stone will take on Bron Breakker. And Bron Breakker says, you might as well call the hospital from now. So now we get a rundown of some of those matches for night 1 of Halloween Havoc. We have Becky Lynch versus Valkyria for the NXT Women's Championship. We have Gigi Dolan versus Blair Davenport in a Lights Out match. We have Carmen Petrovic versus Lola Vice. And we also have Ariana Grace versus Kalani Jordan in the Women's Breakout Tournament. And we're told that Lexis King will make his in-ring debut, a.k.a. Brian Pillman Jr. We have Roxanne Perez versus Kiana James in a Devil's Playground match. And we have D'Angelo and Stax versus Chase U for the tag team titles. But now it's time for our main event. We've got Dijak, we've got Corbin, we've got Mello. Triple threat, number 1 contenders match. Overall, this is a 13-minute match. Dijak goes to hit Corbin, but Corbin hits the end of days. But when Corbin goes to pin Dijak, Mello hits Corbin off the top rope with that leg drop that he does. And then he hits Corbin, and then he goes to pin Dijak. 1, 2, 3. And in 2 weeks, Mello will face Dragunov for the NXT Championship. We go to the locker room, and Valkyria rips up a photo that she has of her and Becky Lynch. And on the monitor, we see Jade Cargill pointing to her watch. And that's how we go off the air, and that's your WWE NXT recap and analysis for October 17th, 2023. And if you like this video, please like, share, comment, and subscribe.